What is going on? It's your boy Steve, real name, no gimmicks. Welcome to another installment of Conversations That Matter. I am so completely enthused to be here this evening. I just want to give a quick business announcement. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe on all the platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and also Green Room. If you're catching this on the replay, I do appreciate you for tuning in. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by a very special guest by the name of Public Friend, someone who I think has an amazing story that I cannot wait to hear. Public just concluded their show on Green Room, a great interview with a former Green Room staffer. And we're going to go ahead and bring Public in now. Let's go ahead and do it. Public, how are you?
Hey, should I wear headphones?
Only if you want to.
Okay.
Only if you want to.
I'm just not sure if there's got like an echo or something.
No. There's no echo. You sound great. You sounded great on your show as well. I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone that just jumped in and on Green Room. Izzy, Sean, and Andrew, welcome in. It's your boy Steve, real name, no gimmicks, Conversations That Matter. Shout out to Mrs. Hold Up for holding it down in the chat. She will be jumping in to kick anyone out that needs to be exited from this fine establishment. Public, I just want to say before we get started, your live just ended.
Hold on. Let me mute this. I just requested to join your little Green Room, and then I'll mute myself on there.
All right, let me go ahead and do that. Boom.
Okay, cool. All right.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little like exhausted. It's not the right word, but just like, I mean, I'm sure you know this, like after like having a conversation with somebody, you just feel a little drained. So
yep.
Here we are.
And that's exactly why I was happy to do this interview directly after yours.
I feel like you're sabotaging me.
Welcome to Public Exposed. Next time you look on YouTube, it's just a picture of you with two horns. I can't believe Public said this. No. So you know the premise of Conversation That Matters. This is a show where I invite people on that I find interesting. I want to hear their backstory. I want to hear about the content, what got them to the place where they're at today. And you're someone that jumped out at me immediately. I remember our first interaction was obviously in one of Mantis's streams, and we were going, you and I weren't going back and forth, but there was a group topic in regards to, dynamics in relationships and stuff like that. And I always respect people who stand 10 toes down and say, no, this is my opinion. I'm willing to, articulate my opinion. And here's some other things I want to throw in there. And so instantly I was like, oh, I like Public. You know?
Do you remember what I said?
No. It was an attack against Mantis. So, I let that stuff fly. Right? As long as it's Mantis getting attacked, it has nothing to do with me. But
I tend to be really good at that.
Remember, we were talking about the dynamics between, I believe somehow Red Pill conversation came up. And we were talking just about dynamics between men and women, relationship dynamics, and you had assumed the affirmative. We're like, hey, here are some things that you need to look at. Actually, and then the conversation shifted into somehow the legal system.
Yeah, because we were talking about Cuomo.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We don't say that name on this channel. But ever since that conversation, I was just like, man, I enjoyed it when you announced that you were going to be doing work on Green Room. I was one of the first people that got really excited, but I don't want to steal your story from you. So will you just introduce yourself to the people for the record? Who are you? Where do you come from? How did you get started?
All right. Well, I'm Public Friend. That's kind of what I go by now. I have had different aliases throughout just like my time on the internet. The other alias that I also go by is Chicken Runt. That's kind of what most of my friends know me as. And that's like the alias I had for the longest before Public Friend. I had to come up with something that was a little more not family friendly, but just like interviewing at a new job friendly. Like if people looked me up or found out that I had like any content online, it needed to be something just a little more like tame.
Right.
And Chicken Rant was not that. So I'm now public friend, which is just more like general. And I've talked about the story behind that name before, but it's basically just this. It's a historical example of like a non-binary person figuring out a clever way to exist in the world that they existed in. And you can look it up. It's a really great story. But I just took a lot of inspiration from learning about them, and I think it's just a really cool like name, like public friend, of a universal
It is.
public friend.
It is.
So that's me. I what do you want to know? I don't know. It's just like
Oh, don't
it's
worry. We'll get there. So let's start here. First, let me
okay.
just give a shout out to you for the great conversation you just had with Osa, and I really enjoyed the topic around money and the attachment to it. It's interesting. One of the most misquoted things you'll ever hear people say is, "Well, the Bible says that money is the root of evil." I'm like, no, actually, it says the love of money is the root of all evil, and I think you guys got into that
Yeah.
very well, the way people handle money. So I just wanted to give you a shout out for
Thanks. Yeah,
everything
that
you're
was
doing on
super
Green
fun.
Room.
This was great.
So let me ask you this question. Without doxing yourself, where'd you grow up? Give us a little background on that.
So I grew up in the Central Valley of California.
Okay.
Do you know anything about the Central
Yes.
Valley of
Yes.
California?
Yes,
What
I
do you
do.
know about it?
Nothing that I'm going to discuss on air, but I do know about them Central Valley streets.
Yeah, so let's see. Central Valley is like all farm towns and lots of crops, lots of like suburbs. The majority of the population is divided into two groups. There's like the people who work on all the farms, and then there's like the people who own all the farms. And that's kind of how the kids are segregated as well. So um, I happen to not be part of either of those groups. The only reason my family lived in the Central Valley is because my dad is a music producer,
Okay.
and uh, where I lived was like right in between LA and San Francisco. And so it was like a cheap place to have a studio where musicians could come and record and not have to like pay super high rent in LA or super high rent in San Francisco. So that's kind of the only reason we lived there. And I was just like raised in this very like traditional American, like very Republican world. But my family was like completely not that, and like didn't really lean any direction, or like they were just like themselves and they had like their own ideas. But it did feel like my household was like a little island in this kind of very like I don't know, Western, like deep South vibes. Like Central Valley is wild, and it's
Yeah.
definitely like really conservative, and it's really what I think people think of when you say something is American.
It's funny because for it to be that conservative, what I do know about Central Valley is a copious amount of methamphetamine is
Oh
pumped
yeah,
there, and it's amazing that it has this conservative streak. And some of those people that have that conservative streak are also the largest consumers in that area. It's a sad tale, as you know. The substance abuse rate there for the area it is, and for it to be, I don't want to say rural because it's not a rural area, but for it to be
yeah. It's weirdly rural though because it's all farms,
right.
so it feels like growing up. The funnest thing you could go do was go to the movies or go to the mall. Like there wasn't any like recreation. There wasn't any like I don't know, you couldn't go hiking, you couldn't go to like any cool scene, like there just aren't scenes, like it's just all dead. And there's like outlet malls and you know cow farms.
But those type of areas produce some of the best people to create scenes. Historically, when you look at stuff
Yeah.
like look at a band like Joy Division, right? Look at where they came from in England. There was nothing
Mhm.
there. It was a factory town, and they were a part of the biggest new wave proto, like, you know, post punk or pre punk, however you want to quantify it, era ever. So don't sleep on the rural towns. But let me just backtrack a little bit. So growing up in that kind of conservative environment, that cultural conservative environment, what was that like for you?
I don't think I really like gave a shit about the situation, like the culture, until I was able to leave. And then I was able to see like how much I was missing out on. I was able to see like how um how much I was not being like authentically myself. I didn't move out of that area until I was 16, when my parents finally like separated, and then my mom, my sibling, and I moved to the Bay Area, which is like night and day when you think of
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
environment. It's completely opposite. And that's when I really started like feeling like I could thrive and like find out who I am, and like all these like coming of age, experiences. And that's when I was like, damn, like the Central Valley sucks. Like I hated it there. I didn't really feel like myself. Like a lot of my friendships were, fickle because they were based on this like version of myself that was not real.
What do you now when you say, and remember we talked about this pre-show, man, and I appreciate you for coming on. Just like with DaVinci, shout out to my co-host DaVinci, and El Wapo, shout out to my brother El Wapo. When I bring people on, it's an opportunity for them to share themselves. So the comfortability level is set by you. So when you say you didn't feel like authentically yourself, what does that mean for the listening audience?
Yeah, so that means a lot of things, and it's something that I think is continuing to evolve.
Mm.
When I say authentically myself, um, so growing up, I've always been like, I would say like conditioned to be like the perfect person for whoever I'm interacting with. So, if joining a certain friend group meant I had to be a certain way, I was going to be that.
Okay.
If like there was a class that I needed to do well in, like I would just become that like student that like that teacher would like, right? Like I will say the right things, I will just do like, and I was very like just a shell of a person that could mold to be like whatever the person I'm trying to get close to needed. And it wasn't something that I did like maliciously. Like I wasn't trying to get anything out of it, but I just really wanted to belong, and I wanted to feel like I was part of whatever it is that was going on, right? So that's kind of how I was like living my life as a child, with my friends. There were friends that like I had that I was really close to, and I would definitely like be myself more around them. And it's not like I was like not at all myself, but I didn't really know like when it came down to it, and if I had to like sit down and write like who I was, like it was really difficult for me to do that because I was like so many different versions of myself with different people. And the main reason for that is just the way that my parents like were and what they expected. So anyway, after my parents like got separated and we moved to the Bay Area, I was able to start so fresh that I was like, well, now it doesn't matter. Like what these people think like doesn't even matter because I don't know any of these people. It doesn't matter if I sit alone at lunch because they don't even know who I am. Like there's just no context there. There's no expectation. And even though like at home, I still kind of had to be the person that was expected of me, in the outside world, I could finally try like, okay, I'm just gonna like be me. I'm just gonna do what I want, and we'll see how that goes. And since then, it's just kind of been like a constant like, okay, is this layer really me, or is this something that I'm doing because I think it's expected of me or whatever? And like, I'm always trying to question these different layers and trying to reach a point where I at least feel at peace with the version of myself that I'm going around and showing people. And I feel like there's some consistency there. And I'm constantly trying to figure it out. It's like, it's a really complex, like constantly evolving, like dilemma to deal with. But it's like one of my, I guess, life goals to always be like conscious of it and trying to reach that like level of authenticity that I think is impossible, because I think humans are always like changing, and you know, one day you might like this genre of music and one day you might like this one, but just like trying to check in and be like, am I doing this because I just want people to think I'm cool, or am I doing this because I think it's cool, you know?
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. And the pursuit of being authentic, it's interesting because you can become false trying to be overly authentic. Like you can get lost in that entire thing. So
Yeah.
so when you move to the Yay area, shout out to the Yay area and that whole cultural burst for you. Tell us about your formative years and growing up and how things continue to change for you. Before we get into your content and everything, I just want to establish who this amazing person is that's sitting here in front of me. So share with the audience.
That's such a big question. Um, okay, so then when I moved to the Bay Area, I was just able to be a loner. That was really what I think like made a huge impact on me. No, like I said, no one knew who I was, so I just didn't feel this like pressure. Like I didn't feel any peer pressure. I didn't feel any um like I just didn't give a shit about the social hierarchies and structures of the school that I was going to.
Right.
And so I was a loner. I spent a lot of time. That's when I really got in touch with like some of the things that I would then continue to incorporate into my art.
Okay.
I started thinking about you know, more existential things. I started thinking about sexuality and gender, and I went through at the same time I was going through a really intense Christian phase.
Okay.
Like really intense. So I get this is probably a really big thing that I'm skipping over. Okay, so when we moved to the Bay Area, I have an uncle who's a pastor at a Southern Baptist Christian church. And so we started going to his church. And at first, I was like, so like, I don't want to go. Like, this is stupid. Like, I don't like these people. And I was like, really, like rebellious about it. But they were really nice to my family. We needed a lot of help. Like we had just gotten out of a really bad situation, and so they were really welcoming and they helped us a lot. And they found out that I like to play drums, and so they were like, "Hey, like, do you want to come play drums at the worship, like with the worship group or whatever?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." And eventually, just started like meeting some of the kids and like feeling part of the community. And at that time was also because I was spending so much time alone when we weren't at church. Like I didn't really have any friends at school, and my family's home was like next to this really beautiful trail, and so I would go out there on my bike after school like every day and just like write and think about stuff and just like be like emo. So so at the time I was having all these existential like, you know, experiences going to and also going to this church and having experiences where I was like, this is God talking to me, you know, like this is like just like profound like moments of enlightenment and things like that. And so the only reference I had, or like the only framework that I could apply to those experiences was what I was learning at the church.
Okay.
So that combined with that kind of sealed the deal for me, and I just like went all in. And that's something that is just part of my personality, is like when I like something, I'm going to go all in. Like I'm going to become obsessed with it. I'm going to go all in. I'm just going to like you know, become the thing. And like we mentioned this earlier that I like have that tendency. So I was like all in, you know, playing drums for the worship group and going to Bible studies and like just like really like wanting to be the best Christian that I could be. Oh, it's so cringy. The things that I did were very cringy. And I say cringy because I think it was like inauthentic, you know. I think that I was just like really overwhelmed with the feeling of community, and I was like processing these really like complex emotions and experiences, and was just kind of like felt like this was it, and I was like gonna do it like 100%. So that was also going on while I was like being a emo artist and just sulking around, and like I also had all these ideas that like when I leave the house, like I'm gonna do drugs, I'm gonna like do everything, like I'm gonna be a hoe, like I'm just gonna like I'm just gonna like do everything bad because for my whole life I was like so obsessed with being like like the perfect child and being so supportive to for my mom, and just like making sure that the house was like taken care of and making sure that everything was in order, and things were like, you know, that my sibling was supported, and like just trying really hard to be an adult and to be like this like all-encompassing like perfect person. That when I moved out, I had all these ideas that I was just gonna like go like buck wild. At the same time, I was like, I'm also gonna be a Christian. I don't know how that will work out, but I'm gonna like try to make it work. um, Eventually, well, I mean, I got baptized. All my friends were just my friends from the church. Yeah, it was, we would go on retreats. It was just like, it was my life, aside from like just whatever other like artsy bullshit I was doing. And then I went to college. I went to San Francisco State. And after I had that distance from the church, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what? None of like, I have not lived enough to make such a huge commitment like that. Like, I have not. I took a religious studies class, and I learned about Hinduism, and I learned about Islam, and I learned about Satanism, and I just like started realizing that I jumped into something so fucking hard and so fast without really exploring my options, and without really thinking about if that was like, you know, if that was really what I wanted to do. And I couldn't fathom not doing it 100%. Like I couldn't fathom like being a half-ass Christian. In my head, I had these like, you know, either you're like a Christian or you're not, right?
Right.
So having that distance really just kind of like pulls me away from that world. I also realized that I wasn't straight, and throughout like growing up, it's something that I never knew a gay person until I moved to San Francisco. So for me, like even though I had these like strong feelings and like, you know, like I was experiencing gay feelings growing up, but I didn't like just couldn't even imagine that I could be gay because I didn't know any gay people. No one in my family was gay. Like it just was not. I was like, well, not me, right? Like I would not be gay. Like people can be gay, but I'm definitely not. So when I moved to college, I just had like the room to like ask myself these questions and not consider my family, not consider my church, not consider the people that I was giving myself to be like great for them, right? Even though in the Bay Area I didn't have, you know, all my friends and stuff that kind of played into that when I was younger, I still had the church, I still had my family, I still was kind of like being this person that I knew they wanted me to be. So once I was alone, I was like, all right, like let's start really like asking these questions. Let's start looking for answers and meeting different people and like just trying to expand the reference points of what I think exists in the world. Because one thing that I was constantly realizing is like your world is so fucking small. Like you don't know shit, you know? So why are you like making all these like life-changing decisions and jumping into things and like being so all in to stuff that like you haven't even fully like understood how they fit into the context of the world and how they're gonna like affect you as a person. So I kind of like stopped. I stopped thinking about. I stopped like thinking that I would find like the thing that makes it all click. So like I'm going to like explore, and I'm going to look into things, and I'm going to think about things, and I'm going to let myself like evolve and try to figure myself out, and like let things like flow. But I'm going to try to just take a break from like the truth. I know this is I know you like to talk about the truth. I'm just gonna stop trying to like make it all click and like find the truth and like find like, okay, this is it. This is me. This is like the thing, you know, because that's just kind of how I grew up, thinking that like you're gonna find the thing, it's all gonna click, you're gonna find the truth, and then like everything's just gonna like take off from there, right? Like that's just this like idea I had. And so yeah, go ahead.
Hold that thought. You throw your headphones in. There's an echo.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Those are the chat. Raise my hand like a gentleman.
Okay. Yeah. No, you did not interrupt me. Hold on, because these are Bluetooth, so I have to.
Anyone that's on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, go ahead and drop a line. It's free. And I want to thank everyone here in Green Room.
Hello?
Yeah.
All right. Man, I'm rambling. Do you want to like steer the conversation somewhere, or?
No, actually, you're not rambling, because you're just giving backstory. It's always funny to me though when people come on this show and they you guys all you all do the same thing. You're like, I'm rambling. I'm like, no, I asked you a question about your past, and you're giving me a story about your past.
It's just a lot, you know. It's a lot, and memories are weird. And you know, I do want to say like disclaimer, like I'm somebody who doesn't always think before they speak. So I just like, not everything I say is like, I'm putting this out there. Not everything I say is 100% the truth. I'll say that. Like there's going to be, you know, I might say something else another day. Like I think this or I think that. And that's just how I am. But
I do want to backtrack. I just want to ask a question for context. When you were involved in the church, when you were younger, typically when I hear people bring up their church experience, it's always associated with like a church hurt. And that's something I always acknowledge. I despise when people pretend as if things don't happen to people that go to church, and maybe that's why they stopped attending. I'm not saying that's your story, but was there anything like that in there, or was it just kind of like, hey, I'm doing this because this is what I'm in proximity of right now, versus there was a pain, and if there was a pain and you're comfortable talking about it, that's okay, and if you're not, that's okay too.
You know, there wasn't, not like that. Like obviously, like there were a lot of points of tension, because even though like I try to be this like perfect person, whatever, like, you know, what I said, like it's not like I don't speak my mind, and it's not like I don't have opinions, and it's not like I don't have like a personality. Like I do have a personality, and I've always been like at least pro like gay people, queer people, LGBTQ people having rights, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having gay sex. Like that's just the bottom line of what I believe. And at the church, I was willing to accept that might not be true, but the level of homophobia that was at my church was hurtful to me, because I didn't want to feel like I was part of that energy. Not because at the time I didn't feel like, well, because I'm gay, but I definitely was like, I don't want to be homophobic. I love gay people. Go ahead.
Your headphones made
you
sound like a robot.
Fuck. Does it still sound like that?
Yeah, it still sounds like that. I'm sorry.
Oh my god. Okay. It's weird because it says that my microphone is coming from my Mac. What about now?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
So Could you understand what I was saying?
Yeah, I caught the portion about homophobia that you felt like you were experiencing in the church. If you want to pick it up from there.
Yeah, and it was hurtful for me. I didn't want to hate gay people, and I didn't want to like feel like I was part of part of a community that hated gay people. On top of that, you know, at the time, I was not identifying as non-binary, so I was walking around, you know, representing women and being all like pro women and stuff. I'm still pro women. Women are the best gender, and there was a lot of misogyny and a lot of like, well, you know, women have to hang out with women and men have to be with the men, and like just like weird shit like that that always rubbed me the wrong way. But that's all it was. It was like it rubbed me the wrong way. I might go home and cry about it, but I would still come back to church, you know, the next Sunday and like just accept that I needed to change the way that I thought about things and try to understand like the truth. Once I had the separation, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to think about the world that way, and I don't think that that's the truth, and I don't, like, I think that the feelings I was having were valid, and I should listen to, you know, that essence inside of me that's saying, like, do you really want to do this? Like, is this really you? I don't think I was questioning it enough. And that's what, like, really made me move on from that phase in my life, rather than, you know, this one really terrible thing happened and it, like, scarred me. So there wasn't that kind of thing.
No. I get that, and you're public. I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna hate me, but it's only because people are really enthralled with the conversation. Just go ahead and take your headphones off, man. Something bad has happened right now.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Everyone is super involved, and we appreciate you. Shout out to everyone that's here enjoying the conversation. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and also make sure to go on Green Room and follow Public Friend. Make sure you follow Public everywhere Public is. Public has a very stressed look on Public's face.
It's like, okay, is that better?
Yes. Folks, we're just gonna deal with that. We're gonna deal with that.
Yeah, maybe I'll lower the volume and I'll just get closer so I can still hear it.
So
go ahead.
as you move away from the church experience, and you're in college, and you're coming into your, did you come out officially, or what was that process like?
So it took a long time. It took years. I came out pretty late in life. So once I knew that I wasn't straight, I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And I started going, okay, so when I went to college, I was studying film, and I always wanted to be a filmmaker. That was like my, just like my main thing. Ever since I was little, I was like making movies with like my family's cameras, and just like I knew that I wanted to make videos. I didn't know what kind. I didn't know if they were going to be movies. I didn't know if they were going to be documentaries or whatever, but I just knew I wanted to work with the video. So I was studying film, and I was working on a friend's film who somehow like he met this guy who didn't go to our school and was doing art direction for him, and I was going to be assisting the friend, who was one of like the biggest assholes I've ever met. Like, I do not fuck with this person. Like, he's an asshole, he's abusive, he's terrible person. But because of him, I met like other nightlife San Francisco people. And once I got into San Francisco nightlife, it was queer nightlife, so gay bars and drag shows and all of that. That's when I started meeting so many different kinds of people that it just like, it blew my mind, and it opened my eyes to, like I said, like these bigger possibilities of expression and like living life, like styles of like lifestyles. And so once I was in that, it was always like a work thing. Like, I was always like working the door at a party, or I was like assisting drag queens in the back room, or I was always trying to make a buck. Like that's just kind of how I like wormed my way in. But it was like so life changing for me. I made so many friends. I like was able to just I remember the first time that I walked into a queer bar. So here's the thing about queer nightlife. There's like the stuff that like if you go to San Francisco and you go to the Castro, that's where all the gay bars are, and that's really fun. And it's a good time, and it's kind of touristy, and you see all like the buff guys and the drag queens, and like it's really like picturesque and great. But that's like, I don't know, it's like the tourist trap of like gay nightlife. Like the vibe there is so different from if you go to what would be considered like a queer bar or a queer club where all types of people are welcome. The vibe at gay bars is like we're men and we want men and we want men to come here, and if you're not a man, like get the fuck out, right? And mostly, white men. So that's kind of the vibe. But the first time I walked into a queer space, it was a queer nightlife space. This club called The Stud, which is like just a legendary collective. It was like the first like co-op owned bar in the country or some shit like that. And the first time I walked in there, the feeling of so I was like all dolled up. At the time I had really long hair and I used to wear heels and like a shit ton of makeup and whatever, and I had like big earrings and stuff, and I walked in and just the feeling of like, I don't know, like relief. Like it's hard to explain. It's like it was relief. It was similar to the feeling I got when I moved and went to school in the Bay Area, and I was like, nobody here knows me, and they're not projecting any like preconceived notions onto me because they don't know who I am, right? Walking into this queer space, like, and seeing so many different types of people and not feeling like anyone was looking at me and looking at me as a woman, because everyone there was all fucked up, like not on drugs, also on drugs, but like fucked up in their expression. Like you couldn't walk up to somebody and assume that they are a man or a woman. Like it's just, like they could be wearing a wig, they could be dressed up for a gig, or they are like a feminine person, but you don't know if they identify as a woman, you don't know if they identify as a man. Like there's just like that kind of stuff is just like thrown out the window, and just nobody really makes assumptions. And walking into that space, like I felt like such a it was a liberating moment, and I was like, I want to feel like that all the time. Like why don't I feel like this all the time? Why is this different from how I feel walking around every day, or walking into a straight club, or walking into a gay bar? Because if you walk into a gay bar as a woman, the vibes are not good. Like you're getting stared at. You're like, I had gotten pulled aside and told like, you're not supposed to be here. Like this is like a place for men, like blah blah blah, and that's like problematic on its own. But just like this feeling that that I could just be a person and be dolled up and be feminine without
being judged.
It's not even judged, because you could still walk into a queer place and get judged. Like if your outfit is shit, like you're probably gonna get judged, but it's like projected onto.
Let me ask you a question. For the uninitiated, let's say you're explaining this to someone, an alien in the near future.
Yeah.
Same question I asked Obama. Let's give definition to the term. What does it mean queer?
Queer just means that you're not straight.
Okay.
So a straight person only has sex with the opposite sex, right? So if you have a penis and you only have sex with vaginas, then I would say you're straight. That also could mean different things to different people. There are straight men that um, will date people that identify as women that don't have the opposite sex genitals, and that doesn't mean that they're not straight. So like it's really hard to explain it like black and white, but I would say that at the very like minimum, that's what it means. Like if you're not straight, then you're queer, unless you say you're not, unless you're like, no, I'm not queer, I'm gay, you know?
Okay, so there's a hard definition, like there is a distinguish like between someone who expresses as queer and someone who says they're gay.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's more so that the gay person sets themselves apart from queerness rather than the queer person setting themselves apart from gayness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand when you explain it. So, and because the reason I asked you to do that is so we can get your experience on it. I want to hear how you explain. 'Cause one thing I respect about you most in our interactions, you know that you know my belief system. But
Yeah.
here's the funny thing: you have never been judgmental about my belief structure,
Yeah.
right? And you've never been in a way towards me where it's like, "Oh, Steve, you old funny duddy." Where does that? Where does that level of acceptance come from?
Um, I mean, I think it comes from like this part of my life, that
Mhm.
um I take people's word for whatever they say they are. And that's as far as I think about it, Like I think that one of the things that has really like expanded my worldview is meeting different people that the way I think about them is like those I don't know if you ever played with dolls, but there are some games that have like there's like a doll and then you can like mix the different clothes and the different outfits and stuff, right? Like I feel like I've just met people that are the living embodiment of that. Like they're just like so like all these things that you might think are contradictions, like they live and breathe it, and that is just who they are, and you just cannot deny it. You're in their presence. That is what they do it so well, and they just are that like whenever I meet a new person out in the scene and they tell me that their name is like I don't know, um they tell me their name is Microwave, and I'm gonna call them Microwave. Like that's just I have no problem with that, and it doesn't. I think that that doesn't take away their humanity, and I don't think that that takes away their I dig it because I'm like, okay, well, if you have the audacity, if you have the courage to just like fucking tell me your name is Microwave, then your name is Microwave, and I dig that. I'm into that. So for, anyone whose belief system might be something that, it doesn't work for me, I still dig it, especially if as a person like you treat me with respect, and you always have. If you didn't respect me, I wouldn't respect you back. But you've always like I definitely let people show me if they are good people. I might have a first impression of you. My first impression of you, I think you told me that well, we were talking about false accusations. False accusations of sexual assault. That's a really controversial like topic to discuss as people who have never met each other. And I may have had some thoughts. You came on really strong, and you were like you were like having some really strong opinions, but I was like, I don't know this person. I'm just gonna see, like, I'm gonna let them show me what they're about, and you did, and that's it.
I'm gonna mute your mic while I answer. So the thing about that is, it's funny because that's the one of many things I share with the people in my space, in my circles. Just put your finger up if you can hear me public. You can. Okay. One of the things is I will respect facts, right? And I will respect the person for standing on their 10 toes. I may not believe in a subjective truth, but I will believe a person when they share their experience with me because it comes from my old career path. I listen to people and I want to hear because there are reasons that people have formed the worldviews based off of their life experiences. And so I'm just not going to throw all that out. I'm always going to sit down and listen to people. I think that the thing that I enjoy most about listening to your content when we're going to get there in a second is the fact that it is a place for people to come and enjoy. So the show is called Probing. You know, you're probing people and you're asking people questions. And in that, does that come from a natural curiosity? Where does that all stem from? And tell us how you came up with the concept. And I'll unmute you. And
All right. Well, I wanted a show where I could have like one person on. I have a hard time like listening to different people at the same time and whatever. So I didn't want to do that. I just wanted one person that I find interesting and just sit them down and talk to them. That is one thing that I have. It's been consistent my whole life. I love one-on-one time with people. I love like you know sitting down with somebody and getting high and like talking about our lives and like just like bonding in that way and asking them questions and yeah, just like deep diving on people. So that's like the main goal that I wanted. The probing you thing is just because I don't know, it sounds scandalous. It sounds there's a little bit of a euphemism in there, which I always love. That's like my sense of humor. Like that, I just like being chaotic. And the whole like universe I'm building in my head is this kind of like pubs.com universe. And so if pubs.com was a website, what are the different like tabs that you could press? So the vibe is like cybery, but very like uh I don't know, like just .com cybery, like internet vibes. Like I love one of the things that I really wanted to do and just like my chill streams is just like surf the web and look up interesting shit and like go down rabbit holes. So that was kind of like where I was going and I was like, okay, what's like cybery and like a little scary, little like I want people to feel like I'm going to be interrogating them. And so that's kind of where that went. But the truth is I'm not interrogating anyone. I'm just sitting down to like talk to them and find out more about them. But I felt like if the vibe was scandalous, people are more likely to come listen.
it's yeah, because it's funny. You just recommended how Da Vinci and I should switch up our show to make sure, and that was actually a good suggestion. Tell people to come where they're racist, and I was like, you know what? That might actually work. But as you get into the content, and we're gonna switch back to more personal stuff. You just did you did a segment with Mantis. And now this is what really cued me into you. The way people handle each other is what I'm always paying attention to, right? Especially when they have differing worldviews. And you asked Mantis questions about his beliefs, about his beliefs as a Christian. And I respected the fact, one, that you were genuine, right? You weren't disingenuous with the questions. And two, you fearlessly asked these questions. As you move deeper into content creation, how do you plan on navigating those waters? Because it's one thing to have us all like in our clique talking, like you and I are having a good conversation and we're familiar with each other, right? And, we have projects that we're going to be working on with each other. I know that someday that I'm going to have a conversation with someone that I'm not familiar with, and the same thing is going to happen to you. What's the plan at that point, and what do you think you'll do?
To be honest, I don't think that that will happen because I don't plan on having anybody that I don't I don't plan on having anyone that I don't like on the show. But that really is how I'm approaching it. It's like I do not just in like our little like green room like community, but I'm hoping to develop a muscle where I feel confident bringing on people that I know in different circles, and like I will feel like I can handle it's mostly like a logistics thing, like I don't want to be like all flustered and having audio issues when somebody who doesn't stream comes on to my show. But I plan on dipping into the pool of all the amazing people that I know. And so there's just like this I want it to feel like a conversation between friends. I want it to feel like we're hanging out. Like I said, like my ideal way to get to know somebody is just like one-on-one hangouts. Like that's what I want to use this like medium to do publicly. And so I don't think I'll be having. I'm not looking to debate. I'm not looking to. Um, it's not that I don't want to understand other perspectives. I definitely do. But if I don't like you, if I don't think you're cool, like, it'll be fake, right? And I just don't. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to be like censoring myself and like. I genuinely want to get to know you if you're on the show. So yeah.
We're doing the juggle here, folks. I got to make sure my mic's off before I come in. No, I mean that makes sense. That makes total sense. And I've chosen a different path, but that's just where I'm at because there's certain things that I feel like if we don't get to a place where we're able to have conversations. So like one of the reasons I wanted to do the show with DaVinci was that it's clear. Let's be honest. Like I respect DaVinci. I like DaVinci, and I'll go to war for DaVinci. Where I consider us friends. We don't agree on a great deal. We just agree that there are evil things in play. I would say that you and I probably wouldn't agree on a bunch of things, but we would agree that people should treat each other with a monicum of respect, be decent to each other, don't harm anyone, don't unnecessarily thrash. But another thing that I've really come to enjoy about you, Public, is that your voice is deceptive, right? The first time I heard you speak, I was like, oh, Public is a very, very, very gentle person. But you pick some of the most aggressive music to put into my request box live. And I just wanted to put you on blast for that. I'm not going to name any of the songs because it's a family show right now. But as you continue on this journey and you're starting to build, let's talk a little bit about the past of what you were a part of. I'm not going to name the company, right? But you were, in my mind, a part of something that could have been really special. And that's actually how most of us green roomers met. Can you just give me an idea of how you were able to come into that form of employment? How did you start down that path?
Yeah, so just I will get to that. I just want to say one thing. I love that. I love when people think I'm just like really sweet and like, just like, oh, like, I don't know. Like, I love surprising people. I love coming out with like, like these like curveballs. Like, they don't know like what's going on. Like, something's unexpected. Like, I love that. And that's something that is like exists in my art. It exists in my personality. I'm constantly like, what am I going to do next with like the way I look? Like, how can I, just like be, a different, like, expectation. I don't know. Like, I really enjoy that experience myself. Like, I love meeting people and finding out things about them that I didn't think were true or that I didn't expect. And I love doing that to other people. I It happens a lot because of I don't know why, right? But I would assume that it's because of the way I look, because of my voice, because of uh, I am like shy when you first get to know me, so I do get underestimated a lot, especially in the workplace. However, because of that, with the work that I do and with the things that I say, I try to be confrontational and I try to like just get to the point. And I'm very like one track minded. Like, I will work as hard as it takes to like get to the next spot. And So when I got out of college, I had a degree in cinema and I had a minor in technical theater and design. So I knew how to design sets, and I did that throughout college. Um, and I also was a scenic painter, so I would paint like big backdrops for theaters and stuff like that. And I had all this like crafty, like hands-on design experience. Filmmaking is not something you can expect to do right out of college. There's no like, filmmaking factory that you can just go and like interview at. So that's not something that I was expecting to do or really wanted to do right away. But I did want to be a designer of some sort. Like, I have an eye for design. I have a natural talent, and I just wanted to do that. Unfortunately, especially in San Francisco, that's not lucrative at all. Like, I could not pay my bills. I struggled so much for the few years after college because it just was not working out for me. So, um, I did have this like back pocket skill of editing video, and I one of my roommates was working at this fintech company, and they got me an interview for an internship, and so I got the internship. And at first, I was just like editing video for ads, which is like really boring and not cool at all. And then just worked my way up. Eventually, I had more of a say in creative decisions, and then that company laid off the entire creative team except for me. And for that whole year, I mean, I was just like working so hard to fill all the gaps that were left from all of the people they laid off. But it gave me like an insane amount of experience and knowledge, and just like, great like things on paper for my career. So eventually I left that place, and that's how I landed at Spoon. And I will say this, every job I've had, I lie about the salary that I used to make so that they pay me a lot more. And I lie about a lot. I lie about experience and like everything because I know I can do it, but like, on paper, I'm not going to wait 10 years to get what I know I can do now. And unfortunately, there's a lot of like ageism and like, well, you haven't paid your dues yet, so like blah, blah, blah. But you just lie to get around that, and that's how I landed at Spoon, and now I'm at a new company.
It's funny because, all right, so let's address the ageism thing. So and this is where, listen, this is just your toxic Uncle Steve relic from the past speaking right now. A part of me has always fought against that, but has always accepted it too, right? I've been in a few positions where I've been the youngest person at that in that role and amongst a bunch of people who've worked at the company longer than me, and I get it. The only thing I don't tolerate is them speaking down to me. I'm willing to pay my dues, but does pay my dues mean that you get to be, some frat boy stuff? I didn't join a fraternity for a reason, right? I'm not that guy. I don't There's no part of the structure that says I got to put up with your shit, right? I got to respect you as my superior in the workplace, my supervisor. I got to throw all the respect on that name as possible, but you don't get to be a jackass to me. Long before someone made up a term called toxic, I was like, you don't get to speak to me in that way. We either do it professionally or we don't do it at all. And I'll just keep it professional on my side. But you come into Spoon, right? And now let me just give you my perspective on Spoon. Like I told Mantis and other people have told me when they've asked me, I thought it was a cult. Like when he told me he was going to a place that was an audio only app, I'm like, this sounds like a cult. It sounds like the beginning of a cult. And this is usually how cults form. And then I got started on there and I really started to enjoy it. It was an amazing experience. I will not lie to you. Like there was something very special happening there. What were your initial impressions of the community on Spoon?
So my perspective is like completely different, because I wasn't like, for me, I wasn't joining like a community on Spoon. I was joining like a team behind the scenes, right? So um I always felt like an outsider in terms of the community. Like it's like, I don't know how to say this in a way that doesn't sound as fucked up as what I'm thinking, but it's like I was like observing like, an aquarium, like an ecosystem happening. And I'm just an observer. And I'm just like a over here with my clipboard, like, listening into what people are saying, and keeping up with some of the drama, and just kind of like seeing how we can best capitalize on that. I mean, that's the job of a marketer. Um, that being said, I would use Spoon even when I was clocked out, and like I did have this kind of like dual thing going on where there's like the version of me that's like the marketer, and I have numbers that I need to meet, and I have, goals that have been set for me that I need to meet in order to, stay hired and get my paycheck, and move my way up. But then there's also this side of me that genuinely consumes the content, and like genuinely interacts with these people. And I would like give people my own money sometimes for spoons, and I would like it would end up feeling like I was working like really long days, but I was just like having fun on the app. So that was always like uncomfortable for me to a certain point because I wished that I could just I wanted to stream, I wanted to like hang out with everybody, but I couldn't because there was this, I it was unprofessional to allow myself to like be too close to anybody, and it just was not right. However, because of that as well, and because I did feel this emotional connection to like the community, and I genuinely liked the content, and I felt like it was special, and I could see how people were benefiting from this like audio only space. It really helped influence a lot of my work in a great way. And a lot of the content, a lot of the ads that I was making were, emotional ads, and were like things that I felt like people were genuinely experiencing in the app. And that's like the kind of people that we would want to bring in, people that wanted friends, people that wanted connection, people that wanted to find an alternative place where they could fit in. And I don't think I would have had that perspective if I didn't spend so much time on the app.
It's funny because the way you're describing it is the way it used to be for me when I was a counselor at the substance abuse this treatment center. Like I wanted these were some great guys, right? They amazing people, and I would sit down and have conversations with them, smoke cigarettes with them, and I'm like, man, I love talking to you people. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to go back inside now. I have to rein you in a little bit, but it's like we get to see a little bit behind the curtain here because when you were employed by Spoon and you're watching this community develop and you're watching the content, was there ever a time when you were at Spoon, you were just like, wow, this is going to take off if we do this, this, and this, versus this is going to crash and burn if we don't do this and this?
Mm, not like that. Not like if we do this, we're gonna take off, and if we do this, we're gonna crash and burn. Because there's a lot that well, one, my brain can only process so much information, and I don't have the full context of, the business, because it's also like the fact that the majority of the business is in Korea. It's so disconnected from the US team. So there was a lot of context that I didn't have, that I just couldn't even, I don't have the experience and like numbers brain to process. And yeah, I mean that's just kind of like there was not a moment where I was like, if we do this, we're going to the moon. Like that would make me that would be ignorant of me to do, because I don't have the experience to like be able to see the bigger picture like that. However, from the experience I do have, there are definitely things that weren't being done that are just kind of like basic, at other places I've worked, and keeping in contact with friends who work at other startups. The fact that our product team was not in the US. So anytime that anything needed to be changed in the app, it had to be done by Korea. And therefore, like, we had no say in it. And usually, when a company is young, when an app is young, the marketing growth team and the product development team, they have to be like besties, because we're learning what people what's like calling people in. We're learning like quickly what it is that people want and what's like calling their attention. And so if we can go back, feed that information to our product team, and they can make changes in the product that, welcome everybody in with a soft hug, and build off of those like things that are like getting people excited, then that's how you have like a great product. But that relationship was not there, and it wasn't fast. It was so freaking slow, and everything, like, there just wasn't that trust of like, that we could be part of that development process. Like, it just was completely disconnected. So I think that it felt like I couldn't see those opportunities to say like, what if we try this could really make a difference, because that wasn't even an option for us, really. The only thing that we could do is control the way that we talk out to the world, we had no control over the rest of that. So once people come in, then what happens? Like, who knows?
It's funny because for anyone, I should have added some context. So the Spoon is an audio only platform, and it was I'm not gonna lie, it was an amazing platform. I enjoyed the idea. I know that there, you have your clubhouses and now you have your green room. The one thing that I know for a fact that Spoon was unique in was in its layout, its UI. And ever since I got an iPhone 13 Pro Max, it's been a much more it was a better experience for me. But there was something else that was really unique about Spoon, was the fact that if you were a choice streamer, a partner streamer, or someone that had an original show, you were immediately inducted into a Discord. Where in the history of platforms, there has not been anything like this. I have seen people kicked off of Twitch and not have anyone to talk to. People get kicked, shadow banned off of YouTube, Facebook, and they have no one to plead their case to. What made Spoon unique was, and I just wish I would have took more better advantage of it, was we had almost unlimited access to the American team and could have dialogues. I remember when I was trying to pitch my show to Osa, I was so nervous. I sent her a private message. I'm like, "Hello, my name is Steve, and this is my show, and if you feel free, please get back to me anytime possible." But it was like that. It was encouraged, and that was something that people wanted. That's what was needed, and that's what people wanted to do. Let me ask you about your thoughts on other audio only platforms. What do you think? And I want a real answer from you, public. What do you think audio only needs to do to be able to take off and compete in an already saturated market?
Um, sorry, I'm looking at the comments, and Osa says the Discord was scary. It was. People were brutal. I was constantly like, damn, like people were mean. But hey, like it was one of those things that you just can't take personally as well, because like you just can't, like, I don't know. But whatever. Anyway, what do I think? Well, I've, looked at different apps, and I mean, I feel like Green Room has a lot of potential, but I don't think that they're on a growth track. I don't think that they're interested in growing this. I think this was just like a test, and I'm not sure like what's going on, if like, eventually they're going to ramp it up and they're going to start spending money on growing the app. But it doesn't seem like it. It does seem a little dead. So that's what worries me about Green Room. I've been on what's that other one? I think it's Station Head.
I'll give you started on Station.
Yeah. I've tried several. They usually feel really chaotic. They feel just weird and like empty. It's hard to say because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. If I knew what was going on behind the scenes, then I would have more ideas. But yeah, Green Room only ever has like 5 rooms. What I think about the bigger apps, like Twitter has Spaces. I know you can live stream on Facebook. I think Instagram, you can't live stream, but you can have like a room with a bunch of people and talk. What I think is different about those is, and this is just like personal opinion, I don't know if this actually has any like effect on how marketable something is, but the fact that you can come onto a new platform and kind of create a new vibe and community, I think that's something that you just can't do on these like bigger apps. Like unless you already have a following, forget about it. Like it's gonna take a long time to like get people interested enough to like choose you over like the abundance of content available. So I think like it's like Twitter Spaces, something like that is cool, and they have enough money to just make it work. But for creators and even for listeners, like the amount of content is overwhelming. that it just feels like I'd rather go to YouTube and watch something I'm familiar with. I'd rather go to when I had Spoon, I'd rather go to Spoon and just like jump into something I'm familiar with because it's smaller and there's like, either if it's a big app, I'm just going to watch stuff I'm familiar with. And if it's smaller, at least I know like what's going on. I feel part of it. It's really hard for content creators to do anything on these bigger platforms. I feel like, without like a lot of dedication, a long time. Like you could be way more popular on Spoon way faster than you could, on something like YouTube or you know.
Yo, that is an absolute fact. I remember the first time I hit 20, what was it, like 28 people in my room and Spoon. I was like, I have ascended into fame. We'll quit my job tomorrow. Obviously, I wasn't like that, but it's a shame too, because when you look at it, you have people jumping into the audio only platform. And I've always taken the approach where it was something that had died and come back, where people really enjoyed radio once upon a time. Obviously, you still have big platforms like the Breakfast Club and Hot 97, but that's not the way it used to be. I grew up in an era where people would literally tune in to Hot 97, listen to the music, listen to the DJ or the radio personality, and you were like, this was the most amazing thing. And that was the vibe I was trying to bring back to Spoon. And that's the vibe that I think audio only needs. That's where they should be headed towards. But that's just my humble opinion. Screw all that. Let's get back to public. Let me ask you a few more final questions. I know a lot of people thought this was going to be a Christian versus a non-binary person type of conversation, but I didn't set you up for that. So if you came here for scandal, you came to the wrong place. Conversations That Matters is about the person I'm speaking to. And I do want to talk to you in regards to about just some questions, because I felt like I put DaVinci on the hot seat a little bit. I put El Guapo on the hot seat a little bit. Now I got it. It's your turn. So here's the first hot seat question. What is your expectation when you hear someone say, I should not have to be compelled to use a certain type of speech to make someone feel comfortable? Hold on. Let me unmute you. And
All right, I got a lot of opinions about this. So, if somebody says that to me, that's fine. That's their like right. I don't want people to go to jail for not using my pronouns. That's totally fine. Don't use my pronouns. Like, I don't give a shit. But we're not going to be friends, because I feel that you don't respect me enough to take me seriously. And if you can't respect me enough to take me seriously, then that's just it. Like, we're going to not be that close. And it's not like an aggressive, like, well, fuck you, like, I'm not gonna be your friend. It's just like there's no common ground there, so there's just not gonna be a friendship, and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. I hope that they're okay with it. I do think that I hate the narrative that people feel like, well, you can't say that nowadays. Says who, right? Like, who is like covering your mouth or like fining you for not using somebody's pronouns? Like, if you don't want to use they them to refer to somebody, please like do what you feel is right, but then don't be upset when people don't want to include you in something, or when they don't want to be close to you because they feel disrespected. Like, I think that, everybody's allowed to act the way that they want, especially verbally. But if you're going around like, saying cunt to everybody, and then people are like, well, we don't want to hang out with you because you call everybody a cunt. Well, you can't say cunt these days, like, you can't even say cunt. It's like, well, you can say it, like, you can say whatever you want, but you don't, like, don't be surprised when that person doesn't feel like they want to be close to you anymore. I think that's now, because of that conversation and that, like, what's going on, then like news outlets and like all these like bigger entities want to talk about it, and it's just not a thing that can be understood at that level. Like, the way that it works is you meet somebody, you know, they got they them pronouns, and then you make that decision if you're going to respect them or not. If you're not going to respect them, don't be surprised if they don't want to be close to you. If you are going to respect them, then you can just move on and, get to know each other and like just not have it be this thing. You know what I mean? It's just not that big of a deal, I feel like.
All right, so let me pose the next question. So you were involved in Christian circles, right? And I assume that when you were going to the Baptist church, now I won't say everyone was a sold out Christian. That is the term that's used when it's like you are an authentic Christian or someone that is a full believer. But let's say you're navigating waters with people who are Christians who are like, hey, you are an image bearer. And I'm sure you've come across Christians like this. Like, you are an image bearer of God, right? You are someone that is deserving of respect. No harm should come to you. You are a person. Is there a medium place where someone could meet you? I heard a theologian say in regards to Caitlyn Jenner, where he said Caitlyn Jenner has changed Caitlyn Jenner's name legally to Caitlyn. And out of respect of that legal decision, I am going to refer to Caitlyn by the name that Caitlyn has chosen. He's like, I cannot concede to the pronoun because it would make me concede on my own beliefs. And as much as that causes me turmoil, it's easier for me to respect the fact that Caitlyn is a creation of God and call Caitlyn by the name that Caitlyn has chosen. Is there a medium place that exists where people can do that? Or do you think, what do you think about that? Give me a sec to unmute you.
Um, well, I think that's up to me and the person, right? Like, if for some reason I'm drawn to somebody enough, wait, like the thing is, I have to be like, sure, you don't want to use my pronouns. That's like one thing, but another thing is like, do I even want to be your friend? Like, do I want you in my life? Like, why am I hanging out with you, right? Like, just in general. Like, let's say it's a coworker, right? Because it's like a forced relationship. I don't have a way out. I have to get along with this person. Um, I mean, I just accept that that's what they want. I'm not going to, why would I force somebody to, refer to me in a certain way? It's like if, my name, I'm not going to say my name. Fuck, I was about to say my name. But,
Say it.
my name is, can easily be confused with another name, right? So, sometimes, growing up, especially white people, they would always call me by this other version of that name. And it's not my name, but that's what they read when they see it. They can't stop calling me that. Like, am I going to be like best friends with them? Probably not, because at the very least, you should get my name right. But if, you know, if they're just not going to respect what I'm asking for, whether it's because they're like, well, I never say Q's. I just only pronounce, CH. I never, like, if anybody has a name with a Q, like, I'm just not going to say their name. Like, well, okay then, weirdo. Like, that's fine. Like, we're just not going to be, like, that close. Like, there's obviously some fundamental differences here. And I'm okay with not being, like, I can be, if I'm a coworker, like, we'll do the work. I'll be respectful. Like, I'll respect them, but I'm not going to give myself to you in the way that I do the other people in my life who respect me. Even just like acquaintances. Like, that's how I feel about it. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It does. I mean, here's the thing. It's not about a right or wrong question. It's about what your view on this situation is. Like, one of the things that has always been very special to me. So I watched this debate years ago with a Protestant pastor and a Muslim imam. And now these are two people, if they're being consistent in their worldviews, they don't agree on much, right? They agree that there is a God, but they can't even agree in the state of the God. But the one thing that they share is a friendship, right? They share a deep love for each other. And I remember before one of their debates, they always hand each other like gifts right before they start ripping each other's worldview apart in a very respectful manner. And I remember thinking about that in that moment where it's like neither one of these men is going to concede on this, but they both shared one thing in common. They're like, I love this person, right? We do not agree. And I wonder sometimes in a country where it's supposed to be, democracy, and we all have to live in these finely drawn lines, is there a way where we can all exist where it's like, I don't agree, but I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you, right? And that's one of the things that I've had conversations with someone personal to me in my own life where it's like, I'm not gonna let it. I can't let something bad happen because I agree with this person about a religious viewpoint, right? I can't let that happen. Do you think that there is room for relationships to build that way? And this, I'm not asking you to answer for the rest of the world. I'm asking my friend Public, right? You don't have to speak for a community or anyone else, but do you think that people can build relationships and still disagree?
Yeah, of course. And I know you said you don't want me to answer it for everybody. I'm not going to answer it for everybody, but like the thing is like my mom does not use my pronouns, and my mom will always see me as her daughter. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm not gonna cut my mom out of my life for that. There's the relationship there is like so deep and so entrenched. Like, there's nothing that she could do. I mean, I don't think there's anything that she could do that would make me not protect her from anything bad happening to her. And I think vice versa. I think that no matter what I throw at her, even if she thinks I'm, crazy for it, or if she can't understand it, um, she's always going to love me no matter what. And the thing is, like, a lot of queer people and trans people and gay people that are other in their families have to deal with that all the time. So they do find common ground. They do coexist without necessarily having that full understanding. I will say though, uh there is only a certain level of depth that I can reach with a person who does not um, see what I'm putting out there. You know what I mean?
We're gonna get your sound system. Public and I have been texting back and forth on Discord. Public had questions about they had questions about audio systems, and we're gonna hook Public. But no, I see what you're saying, and I think it goes for the reversal too. And I think that's one thing where if someone was to ask me about like the Protestant mainline view as Christians, and I've met a lot of strange people who claim to be Christians. And then I've met some people who are really beautifully loving people, and they've expressed that exact same sentiment where it's like, man, I would love to go deeper in this relationship with this person, but they have these strong views about Jesus, right? They have these views about Jesus that make me uncomfortable. And I remember sitting there talking to some of them, and I'm trying to talk them out of feeling that way. I'm like, you're a Christian. You should expect people to treat you this way. Now get back in there, soldier, and like do your duty. But then I had to learn and sit and listen, like, yeah, man, this person really does like this is hurting. And then I think I got to that place in my faith as well, where it was like, man, like I make no secret of it. I used to go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, right? And I loved that community, loved it for many years, and then built a huge resentment because it was okay for everyone to come up to the pulpit and express their views about a higher power. But anytime someone who identified didn't have to be the Christian God, just said the word God in a place where everyone's learning to deal with alcoholism, they were met with vitriol or passive aggressive whispers and stares. And I've always asked myself that question: can we coexist in a way where it's like, yeah, we can reach that depth, but we just have to be honest with each other? You're asking something of me, I'm asking something of you. Where do we go from here? But we'll move away from that. Thank you for having the courage to answer the questions. A lot of people wouldn't step into that gap. Is there anything you would want to say? One of the last two questions I have for you: is there anything you would want to say to someone that is a believing person and how they should approach you? Because I think there's a fear in how Christians, like, there's a terror not of the person, but like, I don't want to offend this person. I just want this person to know that, like, I care for them. How would you prefer to be approached?
Yeah. I mean, and I think even non-Christians, like, I think just anybody um who isn't familiar with what I am, or whoever, like, it's scary. And I feel that way too, like, of other people, like, identity, like, expression, and how you see yourself is can be such a fragile thing that you don't want to, like, be the cause of somebody's, like, spiral. And you don't want to, like, be wrong, and you don't want to offend. But here's one thing is, like, I wish people would stop worrying so much about offending other people. If you offend somebody, you need to sit with that, and that's okay. Like, it is okay to say things that might hurt somebody else, in my opinion. And then you find out that you hurt this person, and then you say, is that something that I would want to carry with me in my next interaction? Do I want to make this mistake again? How can I express what I wanted to say? Because if you don't sit right with the impression that this person got off of what you said, so let's say, hypothetical, somebody approaches me, and even a friend, this can happen, and the whole day they're just like, hey girl, what's up, yeah, she said this, blah blah blah, and like they just like don't even think twice about it. um I'm not the type of person to be like, excuse me, it's they, them, like that's just not who I am. So I'll just be like, okay, whatever, like I guess they forgot, that's fine. And we'll just go on with the day, and eventually we might have a conversation about it, and they're gonna see that I feel hurt by the fact that it just like slipped their mind, and they're still thinking of me in this way that I've expressed is not who I am, and this is who I am, and they didn't recognize it. And yes, there's hurt in me because I care about what they think, and I thought that we were both, here, and we're actually here. And so there's just like this like uncomfortableness that happens. But I think that the other person needs to be okay with that, and they need to, if they really care about you, if they really want to develop this relationship that they have, then they will think about like what happened. They will think about if that's the way that they want to continue carrying themselves towards this person in a different interaction. And then you might adjust the way that you approach this again if it happens again. That's how I try to do it. I have a lot of friends who, have come out at different times in their life. I have friends who have changed pronouns and then changed back. Like, it happens. Like, people are always evolving and discovering new things about themselves. And I want the people close to me to feel seen by me. I want them to feel supported by me. I want them to feel like I respect them. I want them to feel like no matter what kind of, evolution they go through. Obviously, if they do something terrible, that's like not what I'm talking about here. We're talking about gender and stuff like that. I want them to feel like I'm there with them. So sometimes when some of those transitions happen, things get a little strange and I'm not quite sure where we are. So I just sit them down and I say, hey, I care about you. I really want to understand this. Like, can we talk about it? Are you ready to talk about it? And I ask questions that, even if they're not tactful, the intention is that I want to get to know them rather than challenge them. And I think that people can sense that, I definitely, like right now, you're not really challenging me, but you do want to understand me, and you do want to say, well, you know what, like, what about this? Because I'm having like cognitive dissonance about this thing. So tell me, how does that make sense to you? And so then that person can explain themselves. And I just think that there's empathy there, and there's softness, and there's like, room to be vulnerable, that if you open that up and you're okay with being wrong, and you're okay with hurting somebody because you can be better, then you're not so afraid to make those mistakes. And if that person gets super offended and they hate you, well, like, maybe your friendship wasn't that strong to begin with, and they have some stuff they need to deal with, and that's okay, and you need to let them, go and like grow some thicker skin and do what they need to do. But yeah, I just think you got to like approach it with empathy and honesty, and be okay with being wrong, and be okay with hurting people's feelings. There's like, it's gonna happen, and everyone's so afraid of offending now. It's like, don't be afraid of offending, just fucking do it, and then like grow from it. Like, you're not gonna always say the right thing, you're not gonna always rub everybody the right way, but if you're willing to reflect on it, then what can really go wrong?
You know what? That's There it is, folks. There it is. I usually don't do this, but I'm going to give you one Q&A and then we're going to wrap, because at 10 o'clock, we're celebrating on Request Box Live, one of our very own. It's his birthday. It's Dave's birthday. He said he's going to be dropping his Cash App tonight. And it's a tradition on Request Box Live that we always come together for someone's birthday. But I want to acknowledge a question in the chat on Green Room from D that says, I have a question. Do we have to ask everyone for their pronouns or only people we know?
Okay, so this is a really good question. And I love thinking about stuff like this because we didn't really get into like the nitty-gritty of like what I think about gender and stuff. And I want to do like eventually I want to have like a space in my content world to talk about that stuff and to answer like people's like questions, because I know it's tricky and like it's not it's not a black and white thing. So when something's not black and white, it's like really hard to approach it and like, you know. So in an ideal world, in my opinion, we don't have like, you know, everybody, the default is they, them, because to me, I think gender is a social construct, and I think that, you know, you can say what you want about sex and biology, like that is true. We are humans, we need to reproduce, but the way that gender has been expressed through generations and like, you know, the entire like era of the human existence and different subcultures and different countries and like, you know, like I said, all the people I've met that are just like jumbled up like expressions of gender, like it, to me it's impossible to have any system that's going to work where you never get somebody's gender wrong, because that's just not possible. Like you can't, gender's not something that you can look at somebody and just know, you know. That being said, we exist in a society where most people feel comfortable, safe, and confident expressing to one of two genders, usually the gender that has been assigned to them based on their sex, right? Because of that, I do think that there are, you know, the people who are gender queer or gender nonconforming or trans people are a minority in our society. I think that if we didn't have like these existing structures, that more people would be much more comfortable with like a non-binary identity or just not really thinking about gender and not really like putting themselves in these boxes. But the fact of the matter is that that is how today's day and age is. We have men, we have women, and we have people who don't fit into those boxes. So I think that the safe thing to do is follow your gut, and if something in your gut is like, like this person is a little different, just use they them. Like there's nothing, the same way that if I was talking about like, oh, the other day I went to the store and the clerk helped me and they got me this, you know, like I might say that and I'm just like not thinking about their gender. I'm not making them non-binary, but I'm just like not really like their gender is irrelevant, so I'm not going to use it, right? Anyone would do that in just like speaking in a sentence. So I think if you're unsure, just default to they, them, and when you get the chance, you can ask them or you can say, hey, like my pronouns are this, what's your name, whatever. Like I think there's some tactful ways of doing it, but really like the only safe bet is to just ask, which takes a lot of guts, I think, and I get that, but it shouldn't be such a big deal, I don't think.
Anyone else got a quick question? And then with that, public, I know you were nervous. Did you have fun though? Did you have fun, public?
I did have fun. Yeah, I was nervous. I still feel like I look back and I'm like, I don't know what I said, you know? Like I don't remember anything I said. So I still feel nervous and I feel like I always have this this fear that I'm not like communicating what I feel in the best way and that I'm just not I'm not like, you know, I don't know. I'm always doubtful of like some of the things that I say not matching how it feels in my head, but I feel good. I feel like this was a safe space. It was fun and I would do it again, and I think that you're a great host, and I've said that to you before.
Don't worry, your public exposed video will be out. And then for, you know, for all my for people that are catching up, you're catching this on a replay, if you're asking why it wasn't more combative or why there wasn't more debate, because I believe in the conversation, and that's just not what the show is. This is a show for you to refer to public. It's not a monolith. I want you to just listen, consume, interact with the points that public has made, and then hit me in the chat. And if you say anything wild, I will block your ass. But I'll be more than willing to have a conversation with anyone in regards to how I pick and what my process is. Public, I gotta tell you honestly, I really do appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate everything that you've been doing in Green Room. The support that you show people, I hope doesn't go unnoticed because it's genuine. And I really do appreciate that. And to answer your question, yes, I had the Cash App up pinned in the YouTube chat this entire time. And public will be rejoining me for a panel, the second installment of You Talk So White / You Act So White, but this time from a Latino perspective. It's going to be a great conversation. I got 2 other panelists that are going to be coming on, and that's going to be streamed, and I'll get them the date. And I just want to say thank you, everyone in the Green Room chat, for coming through. Hannah, Lainey, Gray Winthrop, Angel Age, Osa, Sean, D Love, Kathy, and Carmen. I appreciate you all. Have a good evening. For those who aren't coming back for Request Box Live, and for those of you that will be back at 10, I'll see you in a little bit. Peace. Good night, YouTube. Good night, Facebook. Good night, Twitch. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you want Public's information, feel free to hit me on any of those platforms, and I'll provide that to you. Follow Public Friend. Wait, let me let Public do that.
Yeah, just follow me on Green Room, I guess. Find me on Green Room as Public Friend. I stream Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Good night, everyone. Peace.